everybody, welcome back to another educational bird video to teach you how to care better for your bird. So I think I'm gonna start filming in this room. I know I keep switching around my backgrounds, but honestly this room has the best lighting. If you guys have seen my makeup video with my parrots, yes, I'm filming this right after just because I'm already ready. Today's video I wanted to address something that I get asked a lot, and it's people asking me whether they should get another bird. Usually this question arises mostly from people who only own one bird and they're thinking about getting a second bird. You know, usually people who already have two birds have no issue getting a third, a fourth, a fifth, as like it becomes a whole cat conundrum. But I fully understand the concern with getting a second bird. There's a lot to consider and put into thought before buying a second bird. It's not just get a second bird, there you go, haha, kind of thing. There's pros and cons to getting another bird depending on your situation. There's things to think about, and there's also reasons you should and shouldn't be getting a bird. And also we're gonna be covering when it's okay to get a second bird and when it's not okay to get a second bird. So first thing we're gonna be covering is the pros and cons of getting another bird. Pros are that birds are very social creatures. They require a lot of social interaction and they usually look to you to fill those needs. Now, having a bird, point four, means that you're gonna be home pretty much all the time to be able to fill those social needs, whether you have one or two. It just means that having a second one can definitely lift off a lot of that needed interaction that they can get from another bird. Of course, they're still gonna need you, they're still gonna want to interact with you, but they're gonna be able to play and have a lot of more socializing time with that second bird. The other pro about getting another bird is, of course, that you bring home basically a friend for your bird. If you've watched my video about what birds pair well together, if you do get a bird that ends up pairing well and bonding with your current bird, then your bird's gonna have, you know, a new best friend, or they're gonna have someone they consider a sibling, part of their flock member, or even like Mango and Kiwi, that they ended up being a couple together, so they ended up finding lovers. The other pro that I find a lot with getting another bird is that birds tend to teach each other things that you can't teach them. So for example, when we got Kiwi, he was clipped sadly. We allowed his wings to grow, but he never fully learned how to fly properly until we got Mango. And Mango actually taught Kiwi how to fly, and now Kiwi's an amazing flyer. He's practiced a lot with her. She's taught him a lot of things, and now he knows how to stop, turn, take sharp turns, fly a lot faster, land properly, all because of Mango. On top of that, they also teach each other to eat veggies. They started to eat pellets together. They just taught each other to just interact with things. Sometimes when I bring home a new toy, Kiwi will be terrified of it, and Mango, she's kind of more brave, so she goes up to the toy, and if Kiwi sees her interacting with it, Kiwi will feel more confident and feel more comfortable about it, and he'll go and interact with it as well. So you're basically adding more flock members, and this as well just helps them to feel more confident and comfortable doing things together that maybe they won't find within you, a human. Now, there are some cons to having another bird, and this kind of depends on whether like this fits or not to your particular situation, but I'll add it into cons anyways. One con is that there is the possibility that your birds just won't get along. Point one. How hard you try. Some birds will at most just tolerate each other. Some will just constantly hate each other, want to fight. They might end up fighting for your attention. There's a possibility that they can hurt each other. And there's also just the fact that they just might bond to each other and completely forget about you. Luckily, we got the situation where we were part of their flock family, so we're just all kind of equally bonded. And I do believe that if you do the introduction properly, you spread evenly the attention, and you spend equally as much time with them, this can easily happen. I think with the proper introduction, proper bonding, and time spent together, the most you can do is at least get them to like coexist together. The next con that can happen is that having a second bird adds to expenses. That means double the vet bills, that means double the food purchasing, that means double the toys, double everything. So you're gonna have to double up everything, and a lot of the times you cannot just put together like two birds in the same cage if they're not the same species or they're not bonded as mates. It can become dangerous. Just use your best judgment. Like I say, like of course if they bond as mates like Kiwi and Mango, of course they can be housed together, but just generally you're gonna be looking into a completely separate cage. So having a second bird does not mean you can just shove them in the same cage with your current bird, because they can definitely hurt each other. They can become territorial and they can just be aggravated that you just shove someone into their home without them even getting to know them, kind of thing. The other thing too is that everything has to be able to fit your lifestyle. So just make sure that if you do get a second bird, that you are also prepared to have more time dedicated to them. You're going to be cleaning up more messes, that you're okay with double the loudness, double the noise. You know, both Kiwi and Mango are still very needy towards us, so that means 2 birds running up to us and asking for attention. So just be prepared if you do get a second bird that it's going to be able to fit your lifestyle and fit your time schedule, and that you can adjust to that as well. Because getting a second bird doesn't mean that you buy a second bird, you shove them in a room together, and you're like, okay, I don't gotta do nothing anymore because they can entertain each other. No, you're still their main caregiver. You are still their parent. You still have to give them attention. Next issue I see a lot is the appropriate time to get another bird. Team, somebody joined us. So getting a second bird, you have to make sure that your first bird is already bonded and comfortable with its home. Just imagine already bringing a new bird home and trying to get it comfortable and bonding is already a process on its own. Then imagine getting a second bird. You're gonna stress it out if your first bird is not already comfortable, trained, and tamed. So you should definitely not be getting a second bird to only stress out not only your new bird, but your second bird that has not even completely been comfortable in its new home. So please always make sure that if you do want a second bird, you have a very comfortable, bonded, and tamed, trained bird already. Do not just get a second bird when you're already trying to deal, tame, and train your first bird. It's going to be way too stressful, and then you're gonna look at it and be like, oh, well, you know, like my birds aren't getting along, or they're not behaving properly, they're getting very aggressive. Well, yeah, you have to work with one bird before you get a second. The only time you can ever bring 2 birds home is at the same time, because they're probably from the same flock. You're bringing them both as babies. They're siblings, basically. Other than that, please take your time to work through with one bird before bringing a second one home. I cannot stress this enough because I've seen this issue so many times where someone buys one bird, they don't really, you know, bond, get along, then they get another bird and same issue, or the first bird isn't tamed, they get another bird that has been hand tamed, and then they give away the first bird because they're like, well, they're not really, you know, bonding to me. It's because you have to take the time to do that. So please consider that before getting a second bird as well. The other thing to consider is that if you have the space to be housing more birds. This as well depends a lot on the size of the bird, but mainly just make sure that you have enough space to put, you know, the cages or the tree stand or wherever you're gonna put them, they have enough space to fly and that it's not gonna become overcrowded. Birds are very active, they need a lot of space to move around, to fly around, and so you cannot be just housing like 20 birds in a tiny room. Now, I've also talked about before on my Bringing Mango Home video about, you know, how to introduce new birds, but there are just things you should take before you get to that point, things that you should keep in mind if you want to bring home a new bird. So it's not going to be such an immediate introduction thing. I've seen a lot of people who just, you know, bring home their new bird and they shove it in their new bird's face and their new bird's like, what the heck is this? Get it out of my face. I'm the king of the house. You can't do this. When you bring home a new bird, try and keep them in a completely separate room for a while. Let your new bird get used to you, its surroundings. Let them hear your current bird from a different room. Let them get used to the sound and let your current bird, vice versa, get used to that. Put them during a quarantine period as well. This quarantine period usually is due to first them getting comfortable and not being overwhelmed by another bird's presence, and as well to just be able to decipher if they have any hidden illnesses that could affect your current bird. And of course, when you do introduce them, it should be a very slow process. It should be, you know, your new bird in its cage, then your current bird, you know, in its area, let them just, you know, get to know each other, and then let one of them come out, let them start exploring, you know, the other's cage, then vice versa. And then when you're ready to actually introduce them each other, once you feel like they're not getting so territorial and they're more comfortable with each other, then you should always have your hands literally around either your current bird or your new bird, just ready to catch them if they try to attack each other, because like I say, during this period, your current bird is very used to being the only one, you know, the only child kind of thing. all the attention on them, spoiled, you know, if they're territorial birds, then they might like get aggressive, try like, you know, scaring them off or something. So it's important for this introduction to be done properly and slowly, because if you try and force the introduction and it doesn't go well, it's very difficult to get them to properly bond with each other later and get them comfortable. Like I said, you want to reduce as much stress as possible for your new bird, and at the same time you also don't want to deprive your current bird of attention. So it does get tricky and you have to kind of balance it out. Just think about like having a new kid basically. So of course your new kid needs a lot of attention, but if you give all the attention to the new kid, then what happens to the oldest kid? They start to feel left out, they start to feel, you know, angry that they're not getting as much attention. So you definitely want this to happen properly. If your plan was just to shove in the new bird and be like, hey look, a new bird, ta-da, then don't be surprised when your current bird is not going to react properly, and then sadly that almost always ends up with having to return the new bird or just end up rehoming them. We don't want this. We want it to be a successful introduction, and we don't want any more rehomes. And as well, just the feeling of getting projected, like for me personally, that hurts me so much that you have to rehome a bird. I would never under any circumstance ever put back a bird in a rehome shelter. Like I would just work through it. So if you've made this mistake, please learn from it. If you still haven't gotten your second bird, then please listen to me and do this properly. Of course, there's always the tiny small chance that you bring in a new bird and immediately it's like they get along, but just don't take that tiny chance, because the chance of it going wrong is so much larger. So if you feel like all of these things are doable with you, you match all of the criteria, and you can handle all of the new responsibilities, then of course go check out my other video about what bird pairs go well together and introducing a new bird to your home. But go ahead, get your second bird. That's completely fine. Just please make sure you hit all these criterias. Don't just kind of like, you know, I sort of do, I'll just work it out kind of thing, because having birds is a big responsibility. You want to be sure that you can handle it. So, and also please introduce them properly, please. So I hope this video helped to clarify some things, if whether you were kind of on the edge of should I get a bird, should I not get a bird, just kind of the idea of how it would go. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, hit subscribe if you want to see more videos by us, check our social media links down below as well as our website link, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!